When children are raised in an environment that is not safe, it means, like there's emotional abuse, physical abuse, substance abuse that surround them. They then feel kind of responsible for their environment, the other people, to make it safe. So they start to absorb energy. And so these are the people pleasers as adults who want to carry other people's emotional discordance so that they're trying to be empathetic, they're trying to help other people out in their current situation, and so they start to absorb other people's energy. They think, well, I can hold this vibration so the other person can have a little bit easier of a time doing it.
Welcome to the Soulful Reminders podcast, your go-to spot for spiritual inspiration, growth, and connection to your true self. I'm your host, Emily Cady. Each week, I invite inspiring guests to share their unique spiritual lessons and insights, helping us all remember who we are at our core. This is more than just a podcast. It's a vibrant community where we'll explore how to unlock our full potential and embrace our essence in every aspect of our life. Life can get busy and overwhelming, but here, we focus on those soulful nudges that remind us of our incredible power. Whether you're seeking wisdom, a bit of encouragement, or simply a moment of inspiration, you're in the perfect place. Grab your favorite drink, get cozy. Let's dive into this journey together because you deserve to shine your brightest. Welcome back to Soulful Reminders podcast. Today, I am just so excited to have Mary Sanders here with me. Mary, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Emily, sincerely, the honor is all mine. I'm looking forward to spending my time with you and the listeners and having a really heartfelt and soulful conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, I have we met once before and a friend of ours or a mutual friend of ours connected us. And knowing a little bit about you, I don't know too much, just a little bit. I find you to be such an incredible role model in this industry. You have, you're a chiropractor, you have over 35 years of living a mindful, conscientious life, really stepping into what your soul's purpose came here to do. And I would just love for you to share with the audience as well as myself today a little bit about your journey and what took you on this journey to start to live a mindful life.
I really appreciate you asking. And I'd like to share with you and the listeners that my journey has been anything but linear. Now, I say that. Now, in all honesty, I had periods of my life in which I really thought I was in control of my career, the trajectory, what my path was. I really felt like I was in control. However, that was such a false sense of illusion. Okay. So I'll start with that statement and I'll try to be brief in my description of my circular story, but I want to share with everybody listening is that I was born hearing impaired. And so my hearing capacity is half of what a normal person will hear. Okay. So what's important about my journey is that I went undiagnosed for the first 3 years of my life. And so I had the opportunity, and it was a pleasure to live in a domain somewhere between here, the physical dimension, and then the spiritual dimension as well. And I firmly believe that if you're challenged in a physical dimension in one of your traditional five senses, then you will naturally learn how to adapt and pull in information from the extrasensories. Okay, that perception that we all have access to. And I just happened to have a life experience where I was born into that and I had to learn how to adapt rather quickly. Okay. So I knew that I was feeling the frequencies, the energy, the love that was surrounding me. I just wasn't picking up that information via the auditory sense. I didn't hear my mother say, I love you. I didn't hear my sisters in their questions and their curiosity. I just felt all of this. Okay.
Mm,
So that
mhm.
meant that I felt the full spectrum of emotions. Okay.
Right.
So at that time, my father, he is a wonderful provider. And I'm going to use a word in which I'm not sure I really even believe or align with anymore, but he was a functional alcoholic. And so to make a long story short, I could sense his presence before I could physically see or hear him.
Wow.
So that started my journey as being clairsentient. I became acutely aware of other people, places, things, and energies that were surrounding me. Now, I think today, I now know cognitively that that skill is true for a lot of people, a lot of children who are raised in an abusive environment or an unstable environment, meaning that they start to receive information from their second energy center, and they have this desire to make everything okay in their environment. And so they start to absorb this energy into their own essence.
Can you
So,
repeat that? I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt, but I would like to really allow that to sink in. So back to people that have like distress or children have,
yes. So I'll go back because I think that this is a really important people. This is an important point. Let's just put it at that and put a
yeah.
period at the end of that statement. When children are raised in an environment that is not safe, it means, like there's emotional abuse, physical abuse, substance abuse that surrounds them. They then feel kind of responsible for their environment, the other people, to make it safe. So they start to absorb energy. And clairsentience typically comes through the space of the second chakra, which is located just below the belly button. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the people pleasers as adults who want to carry other people's emotional discordance so that they're trying to be empathetic, they're trying to help other people out in their current situation, and so they start to absorb other people's energies. They think, well, I can hold this vibration so the other person can have a little bit easier of a time doing it. And so with that kind of a mindset, these are the people that grow up as adults with the ability to absorb and to carry other people's emotions, and it sits in the space of the second chakra, and it doesn't serve them. It does not serve this person, nor does it serve the person that they're trying to support, right? Because it robs them of their own individual journey. But as adults, these people grow up and they literally hold on to other people's energies. So when they tap into their own essence, it becomes really confusing. Emily, they don't know what's mine, what's yours, what's everything else, what's all this stuff that I've been carrying around for years.
Right.
So,
Carrying on other people's emotions, thinking it's their own.
oh, wow. And so when we tap into that as adults, it becomes really confusing, meaning like, oh, I've always thought this way. And I'm like, well, how did you learn this? How did you innately know to start absorbing other people's energies? And so it becomes an energetic discordance, meaning that there is an energy center that is too open, too wide, too excessive, and that they just absorb all of this information and from their environment and they take it as on as their own. So I was one of these people, and I am one of these people, and now I use it as a gift. I use it as a gift when I hold sacred space for others as a medical intuitive. I literally can physically feel what's happening in the other person's body because it shows up in my system. So I can say, oh, Emily, I do. I feel what's going on, at that right side and between your shoulder blades, or I feel what's happening at the base of your neck, or I feel, Emily, what's really happening in your lower left abdomen. And so then all of these things, you're like, well, what do you mean what's going on in these areas? And so you may or may not be consciously aware of where you're holding that somatic memory, or that discordance. And so now, as a clairsentient medical intuitive, that's how I do my work.
Hmm.
So, boy, I got off on a tangent
That was,
there.
and no, it was so beautifully said. I appreciate you taking the time to go through that. And I totally relate to it because I didn't grow up in an unsafe home. My family is very loving and nurturing and there for me, but I had a learning disability. And so I relate to a lot of things that you're saying because my childhood was unstable and uncertain and it wasn't safe for me because of how I didn't fit in. And I couldn't figure it out. So I
Yeah, and
totally
that's
relate to what you're talking about.
And to make a parallel, to share a parallel story, here I am being hearing impaired, and my parents chose to mainstream my education. So
Mm-hmm.
they put me in a regular classroom, even though there was a hearing impaired group that I traveled with, literally within my educational, like from middle school on. So this hearing impaired group of kids had their own interpreter.
And you
And
didn't.
so, no. And so these kids, in my opinion, were more regulated, is the word that I'm going to use, because here I was, like you, with a learning disability, trying to be mainstreamed in a school system that just, put everybody in the same bucket and said everybody learns this way.
Yes.
And that is so not true.
No. It's like devastating to kids that are trying to fit into that and they can't. And I think there's many of us that can't.
Yeah, and now as an adult, you can say to me, "Hey, Mary, a formal structure doesn't work for me, but being able to have open parameters as to how we have this conversation works for me." And I say, "Great, works for me too."
I love that you can. So to our listeners, before we got started, I told Mary I don't do a formal structure because it doesn't work for me, and so that's what she's referring to. So I love that you connect with that because it's part of a sensitivity to me that I feel a little embarrassed that it doesn't work for me still as an adult, you know?
But that's what makes you uniquely beautiful.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
yeah, and it is seriously. So take how I know that is when I finally arrived in chiropractic school. I was like, people were challenging me. The instructors were like, okay, let's talk about how the body heals above, down, inside out. Let's use our hands, psychometry. Let's use our hands to feel what's going on. Get rid of your mind. Tell me what you feel. Now,
Mm,
all of a sudden, I start to excel. I'm like, oh, wow.
I
You
love
want me to
that.
you want me to feel and tell
Oh,
you what I feel?
oh, that
And
makes me so happy to hear.
I was so in my tribe. I was like, oh, I'll tell you what I feel. I feel this, this, and this, and that. And then they're like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So everybody receives and perceives information differently. And to step into one's own essence and to become aligned with how you integrate and process information, I think is divinely unique.
Mm,
So I know that for the whole conversation about holding space for this podcast is to have soulful conversations and talk about spiritual awakening. And my spiritual awakening came in bursts throughout my life. Like I didn't wake up one day and just say, I am now woke and I've had this Kundalini experience and I now know what the energetic and the spiritual realm was. I believe I came into this world and that there was a very thin veil between the physical and the spiritual, which connected me into the energetic understanding of receiving information. And so I've learned various different modalities throughout the years and stepped into that essence more and more as time went on. And so when I finally got tapped into getting connected with meditation and understanding the neuroscience behind meditation and how I could relate it to what was happening somatically within my body, that was a game changer. And then when I attended the Academy of Intuition Medicine, and they were then like, oh, let's talk about all these ways that we can receive intuitive information and let's, find out what your gifts are. And so when I finally leaned into allowing my gifts and trusting my gifts to guide me, then that's really when things started to blossom.
mm. Can we go back to the neuroscience and how it's related to our body in the somatic imprints we have in our body? I'm super curious about that.
So you were just asking about the connection between the neuroscience and the somatic memories. And I didn't really, and it was really interesting. When I started to meditate, it was the first time, I remember this very distinctively. I had just recently arrived in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. my husband and I decided to uproot ourselves and sell everything and move to the other side of the world. And I felt really untethered when I arrived. And at that time, Emily, I kid you not, I was really deeply investigating, wow, who am I if I don't have a brick and mortar practice? Why am I still here? And I really feel like
What year
innately
was this?
2015.
Wow. Awesome.
2015, so 10 years ago. So maybe it was 2013 then. So yeah, so 12 years ago. And I literally was like, okay, so I know the human body. Now I'm stepping ahead of myself. So I was so uncomfortable being inside my skin, Emily, that I decided to run away from Ho Chi Minh City, leave my husband there, right? And I ran away to Bali, Indonesia to complete my yoga teacher's training certification. And while I was there, I slept more than I've ever slept in my entire life.
Mm,
My whole central nervous system was looking to rejuvenate and to reboot itself.
mm,
And during this time, I mean, obviously, I'd been a 30-year practicing yogi, so I was really, I was in my element. But what started to happen to me is that I fell in love with meditation. And so that's when, I really started to tap into the awareness of what meditation felt like and how to be kind of what I thought in control of the brain waves. Like I knew something was happening neurologically in the brain waves, but I didn't understand what was happening. Like what happens when you tap into the alpha or into the theta? I mean, what happens? And so that curiosity is what led me to go study under Dr. Talbin Shahar. And so I was living in Ho Chi Minh City and I would fly to New York City, go up to Lenox, Massachusetts for where the class was being held. And at that time, he really was, premier scientist who was talking about the neuroscience because I needed somebody to appeal to my intellectual brain because I knew things were happening somatically, but I couldn't really understand like the connection between it. And so then I started to really tap into the neuroplasticity of what the brain has the capacity to do to rewire itself. Now that's something that's fascinating and that's really a potent ingredient for empowerment and transformation. So at that time I was like, okay, so this is what's happening. And so we know that the neuropeptides and the chemistry is changing. We know that the somatovisceral component of the body is responding. And so then it was like, well, what's guiding what? Is the brain guiding the body? Is the body guiding the brain? And so I believe that the body really has a higher prevalence. I mean, when it comes to the vagus nerve, we now know that the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve, second longest cranial or nerve within the body, sends 80% of its information somatically from the body up to the brain, and the brain then integrates it.
mhm,
So when you are in meditation, changing your brain waves, and you're coming down into an alpha state, in that state, you can start to address some of your environmental conditioned responses. So
mm,
when you start looking at your environmental conditioned responses and you look at what the body is communicating to you, your body will show you where the discordance or the health trauma is within your tissues. And so then all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, yeah, oh wow, okay, so yeah, I totally can feel this. I can totally feel, in the neck, or I can feel this on top of my shoulders, or I can feel this in my bum. I really was starting to get to know myself at a deeper level that I really didn't even know I had the capacity for. And so this was after years of holding space for people and as a chiropractor, and I'm like, oh, wow. So this is starting to explain to me why some people responded to my work and some people did not. And so, like, I was having these big revelations, being on both sides of the coin, being the person being healed and the healer.
mhm,
So, and I say healer, I mean, really, truthfully, all we are just facilitators. The healing happens within the people,
mhm,
within the beautiful
mhm.
spirits that embody the home, their
Right.
physical home. So, Anyhow, Emily, I'm not sure if that's where you wanted the
Yeah,
conversation to
no,
go.
I'm
And
fascinated. I would love to go back a little bit though. And so your nervous system could not handle Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. It was
it
too
was,
intense. And I find it super amazing that then you went to Bali and that was the place that you needed to really reset your entire nervous system.
yeah, I mean, prior to moving to Ho Chi Minh City, we were living outside of Colorado Springs. At that time was about 400,000 people. And I lived in the mountains, so I had property. I was surrounded by nature. And so I would definitely leave before the sun came up in the morning, and I came back after a long day's worth of work, after the sun had set, but I could feel the energy of the earth.
Mm,
And to be in that Southeast Asian city
hmm
of that population was like, I could not stay in my human home to save my life. I
mm,
was just like, there's too many people, there's too many smiles, there's too many sunsets, there's too many motor scooters, there's too many people.
yes.
So that's why I had to run away. As a highly sensitive person, and I know that the majority of the listeners, you fall within this category of the spectrum of being highly sensitive, if not empathic. So you understand what it's like to be in a big group. And again, that's part of the excess of the second energy center where it's hard to calibrate down.
hmm
So you're picking up way too much information.
I'm from a little tiny town in Northern California. And right now I've been down in Southern California the last 20 plus years, and I've never felt at home here. I've always wanted to get out of here, and it just certain reasons I'm not out. But when I do go back to my hometown, it's like my whole nervous system gets reset. And my partner always says to me, "You're a different person when you're in your hometown than you are down in Southern California." And it's our environment is really important for us.
I
Uh,
agree.
and like somebody like me, I'm not in a position to move right now. And so my partner owns a business, a very successful business. It's brick and mortar. He can't just up and move his business, and I would never ask him to. So I have to find ways to help regulate myself in this highly dense area that is nothing like what you experienced in Vietnam, but it's still
Same thing.
sensitive people to be able to find that balance so that you can function is important. And I'm curious because I'm sure some of our listeners today are experiencing that. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I sure do. The School of Hard Knocks always takes you through these learning
Right.
opportunities, right?
The best way to
Which I'm
learn,
incredibly
unfortunately.
grateful for, right? They're
Yes.
always challenging to go through, but when you're on the other side of it, you're like, I'm thankful that I learned that tool.
100%.
And this is something that I learned the first module when I was at the Academy of Intuition Medicine in Sausalito. And the instructor, Dr. Francesca McCartney, calls it neutral separations. And essentially, what she has trained us to do, and that I'll describe to you and the listeners, is an energetic technique that at the end of the day, in a very grounded and expanded state, you bring into your consciousness or into your mind's eye the various different people or groups of people that you've made contact with. So, for example, I'll go home tonight. I do it before I leave my office, but I'll see a pod of my husband. I had relations with him. I'll see a pod of those people that I exercised with in the morning. I'll see a pod of people, all my patients that I saw that day. And then I'll have a miscellaneous pod. I've got an aging father and a sister, and they've got a small little pod. And then a miscellaneous one that carries all the people that I just had casual interactions with, the people at the grocery store to the people at the gas station. And so, what I literally envision in the technique as it is explained to you and the listeners in this grounded and expanded state via my psychometry, I get to use my strength. I literally can envision these various different pods of groups of people or, individuals, and I send loving energy. It's as if I'm sending a gift to each and every single one of these pods, like I'm taking a birthday cake to them or a Christmas gift or a bouquet of flowers. And so I send this energy out to the various different pods, and the pods are located way outside my biofield. They're located outside of my office. They're actually located outside of my building.
Mm.
And in some cases, they're located in other states.
I love that. I love that separation.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I gift the energy back, gift, gift,
Hmm.
gift, gift back, and then I wait until they feel complete, and then I receive the energy that rightfully belongs to me. And
Hmm.
so then I fill myself back up. I reclaim my life force energy that I provided being of service to other people. I reclaim what rightfully belongs to me.
Mm.
And when that process is complete, depending upon the intensity of the dynamics within those groups of people, I gently sever the cords, the energetic cords. And then what I do is I pull that energy back, I ground it back down into Mother Earth for her to recycle and for her to do her composting and her magic, and so that she can provide that energy for another sentient being.
Mm.
So that's the process that I do. And that affords me the opportunity to like let go of all the telepathic messages, those looping thoughts that I might have. I can come to completion with all the conversations, spoken and unspoken. Yeah, it lets me sleep better at night.
Mm. I love that practice. What a beautiful practice you have. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's something I definitely will implement because yeah, when you said the looping thoughts, I'm curious too, like when we're energetically entangled with people that we've connected with throughout the day, those looping thoughts may not be ours.
Absolutely. And that, again, comes from the telepathic energy centers, which are located around the eyes. And so they're almost like glasses. Both you and I have glasses on. So we have the rims, and then we have a bridge. And the way it was shown to me energetically, was that the bridge between the right and the left side hemisphere of the brain. So the brain is then circulating it, running it through the prefrontal cortex. And then it goes through the whole parietal lobe of the brain, and then it goes behind the ears into like behind the masseters, then drains
Mm.
out of the auric field and then back down to the earth. So we can literally cleanse and charge that whole system to calm down those receptor sites when people are sending us energetic messages.
Mm.
And in our line of work, Emily, it's once we it's not uncommon for that to happen.
Yeah, I did not realize that we had all those points there. I knew we had some, but I wasn't like in tune with it. It's our telepathic receptors. That's really fascinating. And the importance of having that awareness and knowing how to cleanse and charge it to
Mhm.
protect ourselves and protect those that we're interacting with as well.
Oh, very much so. My husband and I will like he'll say something. He did it last night. I can't remember what the conversation was. Well, we weren't in conversation. That's just it. And then all of a sudden he says, "I'm thinking about this," and I'm like, "Get out of my head or stop sending me these signals." One of the two. You can't dominate. You can't be in my telepaths. So, and I know that those of you that have been married for any length of time know exactly what I'm talking about. People can finish each other's sentences and, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. It's my partner. It's very strong in him, and he will answer people before they even say what they're going to say, their question. He just knows it and he starts answering, and he freaks some people out, but it's just so innate in him that
Mhm.
it's a very strong one. I think he needs to cleanse and
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was
yeah.
going to say, Emily, he needs to cleanse and charge.
I'm gonna work with him on that. So you just really helped me out. Thank you. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, don't think that because he can pick up on it. So, um, That's amazing. I got such a gift from talking with you today, Mary. This is so big. Thank you.
You're
Um,
very welcome.
I could go on. I really could. There's so many different directions I want to go, but I want to just be aware of our time and your time here. So, is there any specific message that you may have for any of the listeners today, that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I know all of us have access to information, intuitive information, regardless how we receive that information. My hope for all of us, myself included, and Emily and all the listeners, that we lean into that information that we are receiving and trust it.
Mm. Yes.
And that sometimes can be challenging to act on things that you have no like intellectual basis for, but to follow your intuition and to empower yourself to do that, I think is priceless.
Mm. Yes, I agree. It is such, and I think that I don't know about you, but going back to your time in Bali and you going and falling in love with meditating, was that like a catalyst for you to really connect with your intuition at that point in your life?
It was the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then it allowed me, the permission to go and study it more at the academy. And so that's when I really, I mean, like I said, I didn't wake up one day and just have this spiritual awakening. I know that that's different than your story. However, I just took in various different aspects of my life, I just took what was in front of me and integrated it, and it allowed me to become the person who I am today.
Mm, I love it. Well, Mary, can you share with the listeners a little bit about your work and how you may be able to help some of them that maybe are
Mm,
listening today?
mm. I wish that was an easy answer. But it is always my honor to hold sacred space in their healing journey. My wish for everybody is when we tap into the journey, the transformation that we can release, which no longer everything that no longer serves us in present time. And so it becomes a really multi-dimensional healing, past, current, present, and future. And so I think when we can begin to unravel what truly is ours versus what is genetically we've inherited versus what I think that that's a complex and tricky thing. But once we get a handle on that, I think we see things from a different lens.
Mm.
So that's what my intention is in holding one-on-one space. And more importantly, the older I got, the more I realized that I'm geeking out on teaching. And so I do courses and hold space for people in their evolution for their own personal healing empowerment. That's another thing. All this information can be found on my website. It's the best breathing organism that has like all of my offerings in one place. And I want to let you know, I just remembered this. I have on my website, I have a package of 3 guided meditations, and that neutral separation act, that guided meditation is part of that package.
So that's the one that you do at the end of each day.
Yes.
Oh, I love
So,
that. Wonderful.
yeah, yeah, because it's something that I do with all my clients, and I wanted people to have resources free of charge. And that to me was a pretty priceless resource. So I'm like, just record it and let people work with it and develop it as their own. So, yeah, that's available there.
Okay, great. I'll make sure the link is in the
Thank
description
you.
below so that people can access that. Thank you for that. That's a beautiful gift. Um, and how can people get a hold of you?
The website. One thing that I know is that as beautiful spirits living in your human home, you have the right to choose a practitioner that is going to resonate and work for you. I may or may not be that person, but if you're like, hey, that lady she piqued my curiosity, then there is an opportunity on my website to schedule a discovery call, which is just an opportunity for us to connect and for you to be able to say, oh, I do resonate with her or I don't resonate with her. So I advise all people take advantage of that discovery call.
And your website is?
www.drmarysanders.com, drmarysanders.com.
Awesome. Again, I'll put it in the description below, but yes, take advantage of having that discovery call, listeners, of just to connect with her. She's such a beautiful soul. And maybe you are soul. I truly believe we have soul contracts with people to work with them. And there's no competition in the world at all, because we legit have people that are souls that we've agreed to that we would help them in this lifetime, if not this lifetime, future lives. And there are listeners out there that are aligned to work with you as well as me. And there's just a soul contract. So connect with Mary, take her up on that discovery call. That's such a precious gift of her time, which is priceless, and see if you are aligned to work with her. And yes, you're such a powerful soul. You've been through so much, and
Thank you.
I am so appreciative of you taking the time to meet with us today and share your journey. What a beautiful one. And I love that nothing you've done has gone to waste. You've utilized it, and such a powerful figure here for all of us, especially right now in these uncertain times that we're in. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Sincerely, the honor is all mine.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Soulful Reminders podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered by the incredible insights we shared today. Remember, every story and lesson we explore is a beautiful reminder of the immense potential that resides within you. As you continue on your journey, take these soulful nudges with you. Embrace your true essence and actively work towards unlocking your full potential in every area of your life. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And don't keep this goodness to yourself. Share it with others who could use this little reminder too. Until next time, keep shining your light. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Together, we can uplift and inspire one another to live fully and authentically. You got this.